Alright, so that's the code we're getting. P0272 cylinder 4 contribution balance. This is a 2016 Kia Forte. Now normally, the first thing you would do in troubleshooting that kind of a code would be to check for plugs and check for coils. The coils and plugs in this car have less than 10,000 miles on them. That doesn't mean anything. But in my case, another symptom I'm getting, which it feels like an intermittent miss and a rough idle, but the other thing that's a giveaway is that I'm getting a whistling sound that seems to be coming from the fuel rail. So I believe the number 4 injector in this car is bad. So with a car that's got 108,000 miles on it, we're going to replace all 4 injectors. That's the better way to do it. And we are going to start by pulling the fuel pump fuse, which in this case is this 15 amp fuse right here. Let's get that pulled. All right, we're now going to start the car up. We're going to let it run until it runs out of fuel. So we'll get rid of most of the fuel that's in the fuel line. All right, it ran out of fuel so quick, I didn't even have time to get out to record it. Ran for about 10 seconds, conked out. So most of the fuel is now out of the fuel line, out of the fuel rail. Let's get these injectors replaced. So we already ran the car out of fuel. We pulled a 15 amp fuse from the fuel pump. We ran the car out of fuel. We're going to pull up on this plastic shroud. And this is our fuel rail. So we're going to disconnect all these wires and we're going to take these 2 bolts out. So we're just going to pop these off. There's a little clip on the side. 2, 3, and 4. All right, so what we want to do is, this is the fuel rail. We want to get this plastic ring. Let's get a rag under here because we might lose some fuel when this comes off. And what we want to do is press back on this plastic retainer like this here. Push in. And that will slide right off like that. And you can see we're losing a little bit of fuel. That's why you want to have a rag there coming out of the rail, a little bit coming out of the line. Just soak it up. This is also why you don't work with the engine hot, because if it hits the exhaust manifold, you can get a flash fire. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove these 2 12mm bolts from the fuel rail. Let's take those off. So we got the fuel rail loose. We're going to just rock it a little bit and pull straight up on it. Until she comes free. Now you still have fuel in this rail. Each injector has these 4 little clips, one on each injector. We're just going to take a screwdriver and we're just going to pry those clips back, being careful not to lose them. There's one. That's what they look like. You can see them from the back side. There's 2. There's 3. You can see how they can go flying if you're not careful. And notice how everything is towards the bolt holes. That includes the connections. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to very gently pull each injector right out of the sleeve, right out of the fuel rail. just rocking, a little bit of pressure. So each one I pulled out left the O-ring inside of here. If that happens to you, you want to very carefully, you can't score that wall, so you just want to very gently get behind it with a little pick and just kind of pry, the rubber only, you don't want to be on the metal. Just get in there and pop the little rubber washer off. But that's what your rails should look like when they're all out. So these are our new injectors, and we're going to lubricate a little bit of white lithium grease on the O-rings before we put them in. So we want to take these caps off, and then we're going to lube each one. So for each one, we want to get a little bit of white lithium grease on the O-ring. And we can do both sides. Not too much, just a little bit. That'll help it slide on. Just a little bit of white lithium grease all the way around. Then we're going to take it, we're going to set it down towards the bolt side and just push straight in, straight down until the little tab meets the top of that flange. Just like that. We're going to do that on all four. So you can see the injector has this little groove. You want to make sure the clip is sitting inside of that groove and then lined up with that little tab. Just like that. See how it's in that groove? And then push down on it. You'll feel it kind of clip in. So just make sure you're in that groove. All right. All right. So we have all four injectors back in. The clips are back on, and we're going to put them back on, and we're going to bolt the fuel, bolt the fuel rail down, connect the fuel line. So what we want to do, go ahead, is we want to very gently set the rail down, set the injectors in. So line them up very carefully. And we just want to kind of push straight down until that flange there lays flush. You feel no space there, right there. We're going to bolt that back down. All right, so we're going to bolt the fuel rail back down. Nothing crazy here, you don't have to go too tight. We'll snug it up both sides. Just a little beyond finger tight, and then we'll crank it a little bit. All right. So, not too tight, just snug. All right. Stop. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put all our electrical connections back on. Straight down, just snap them on. Okay. I am going to have to get a new little strap here because I cut that and taking it off. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our fuel rail back on. And we're just going to push that straight on till it clicks. You'll feel it click. And this little gizmo here goes around, sits in that groove, goes around here, and it sits in a channel. It's going to be a little bit tricky to do this. Once you get it lined up, you're just going to squeeze it. All right, so once you get that to click, just set this part down onto the rail, and that's complete. So the next thing we're going to do is let's put our 15mm fuse for the fuel pump back in, and then we're going to fire it up. All right, I cranked it for about 5 minutes, fired right up. We're going to put our fuse box cover back, and we're going to put the plastic sheath on, and this job is done. This is smoother than it's ever been. I got the car at 93,000 miles, got 108 on it, running beautiful. We're all done.